I always was interested in theater, but too busy with teaching and writing about history and movements and so on to venture into the theater until when the war in Vietnam ended in 1975, I felt I had a moment to breathe. I no longer had to run around the country making speeches about the war. And so I sat down and wrote a play about Emma Goldman, who had become one of my heroes, an anarchist, feminist, outrageous woman. And then more recently I did Marx in Soho, a one-person play in which Karl Marx returns to the present.
Well, when I wrote my play, Emma, and for the first time I was in the theater, and suddenly I found I wasn't alone. It's a very intense experience, you know, rehearsing every day, every night, being with the same people over and over again. And it's very, very different than writing a book, you know, writing anything where you're on your own.
Right.
Yeah, you're an isolated individual.
Giant merger between Chase Manhattan Bank and Chemical Bank. 10,000 workers to lose jobs. Stocks rise. And they say my ideas are dead.
You know, from 1960, the Civil Rights Movement, to 1999, the WTO, Howard has managed to make himself useful, you know, of service to one generation of rebels after another. And it's very, very difficult to have that kind of perseverance.
Remember, to be radical is simply to grasp the root of a problem. And the root is us. I have a suggestion. Pretend you have boils. Pretend sitting on your ass gives you enormous pain. So you must get up. You must move. You must act. Let's not talk anymore of capitalism, socialism. Let's just talk of using the incredible wealth of the earth for human beings. Give people what they need. Food, water, clean air, pleasant homes to live in, trees, some grass, some hours of work, more hours of leisure. Don't ask who deserves it. Every human being deserves it.
When he tells people about the truth of American history and not the myth, and he really is clear, the young people have an enormous sense of relief.
Do you think there'll be students tonight who are not anti-war, who have just come out of curiosity?
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Absolutely, absolutely.
Those are the ones we want. War doesn't solve fundamental things. It's like crack. Really. War is like a fix. You know, you get high on war. We won. And then you're down on the ground again, and you need another fix. You need another war. Why do you think we've had war after war after war after war? During every war they say, this is the end. This is the last war. In World War I, they said, this is the war to end all wars. And then, not long after that, was World War II. And then soon, the United States was waging war in Korea, and then in Vietnam. Then in Grenada. Imagine making war on Grenada, you know. What a great victory that was for the United States to defeat Grenada. If you study history, what you learn is that wars are always accompanied by lies. Wars are always accompanied by deceptions. Wars are always accompanied by, oh, we're going to war to fight for democracy, we're going to war to fight for freedom. Behind all the lies and deceptions that accompanied all these wars, you know, was one basic motive that is behind all of these wars. Expansion, power, economics, business, really.
The VA, 10 years after the Gulf War, reported that 8,000 veterans of the Gulf War were dead for various reasons. That of the 600,000 soldiers who fought in the Gulf War, 200,000 of them after the Gulf War filed claims with the Veterans Administration for disabilities that they had suffered during the war as a result of the weaponry that the United States was using in the war. The weapons that we use against other people are also used against us. A government that is ruthless about what it does to other people is also ruthless in what it does to our own people.
We're at war, they said, and I thought, they have learned nothing, absolutely nothing, from the history of the 20th century, from 100 years of retaliation, vengeance, war, 100 years of terrorism and counterterrorism, of violence met with violence, in an unending cycle of stupidity. Our security can only come by using our national wealth, not for guns, planes, bombs, but for the health and welfare of our people, for free medical care for everyone, education and housing guaranteed, decent wages, and a clean environment for all. We cannot be secure by limiting our liberties, as some of our political leaders are demanding, but only by expanding them. We should take our example not from our military and political leaders shouting retaliate and war, but from the doctors and nurses and medical students and firemen and policemen who have been saving lives in the midst of mayhem, whose first thoughts are not violence, but healing, not vengeance, but compassion.
It's exactly when you're in the midst of a war or about to go into a war that you need your freedom of speech. You need the most sharp and honest discussion of what is going on because lives are at stake. War is a matter of life and death. That's when you need to make sure you're doing the right thing in national policy. And if at that moment, because of war, your free speech is hampered, if you are put in fear of speaking out, then democracy has been severely crippled. That's what's happening today.
In 1999, ABC